Hello everyone, welcome back to session 7. In this video, we'll discuss about callback hell. Quick recap, in last session we discussed about callbacks. If you have not seen that, I would highly recommend to go through that before moving forward. Using callbacks usually is awesome, but sometimes it creates a situation where asynchronous JavaScript code contains multiple nested callbacks. This leads to code that's hard to read and understand and maintain. To understand better around this, let's consider an example. Let me copy paste a scenario, right? So let's say you need to fetch some data from one source, process the data, and based on that process data, you need to make another API call and fetch another set of data, and finally process that another set of data and save it in your system. If I break it down in steps, the first step would be to fetch the results. Second step would be to process that fetch data that we got from step 1. Third step would be fetch data again based on that process data, whatever we got from step 2. Then process that data 2, whatever we got, and finally save it. This is the step by step representation of the problem statement, right? Now, I'll copy paste some code as well. If you see now that there are multiple functions that I've created, and to make it asynchronous, I've used set timeout. On set timeout, I'll definitely make a separate video, but just considering a overall idea, right? A set timeout is a function that takes two parameters. The first is the function itself. It also takes a callback, and second is the time in milliseconds after which the code should go and execute. So when I say 1000 milliseconds, it's not like this particular piece of code is going to execute exactly after thousands 1000 seconds milliseconds, but it is after that. So it can execute as 1001 millisecond, 1002 millisecond. That totally depends on the resources that is available, right? So that's basically a quick idea about set timeout, right? So now the fetch data, what it is doing, it's getting a callback, it's putting it into a set timeout, it's fetching some data after that set timeout is completed, and then calling the callback with that data one. In process data, what I'm going to get is two parameters. One is going to be data itself, what I got from fetch data itself, and second is the callback that needs to execute after I have processed the data. So same thing here, like let's say if I have made const of process data, once the data is processed, it's calling that callback with that process data. Now fetch data 2, similar to what was there in process data, it is going to get the process data whatever we had, and then a callback which should get executed once it has fetched the data based on that process data. Finally process data 2 is going to again process it, and at the end save data is going to get the final data whatever is going to come and pass it to a callback if someone requires that. So fetch data is going to have a callback function as we discussed. What that callback function is doing, it's getting a data one property and then passing it to process data, and the process data also needs to have a callback function, right? So that process data is going to be passed as a parameter, and fetch data 2 will get called. Fetch data 2 also will have a callback function, right, in this case, and that is how it is represented. This exactly the problem, right? Readability of the code has went down tremendously here because now there are multiple callbacks, nested callbacks, one within the other, right? So this concept is called as callback hell. To handle this scenario, JavaScript has the concept of promises as well as async await, which we'll discuss in the upcoming videos. That's it from this session. Thanks for watching.